Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Happy hump day.
Hi.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I hear a feedback back there somewhere.
Wasn't me. I
It
don't
was
think.
me. I don't think it was me.
It's not me. Uh-oh. I'm like, who is it?
Is it me?
Hello to everyone in the chat.
Nah, now it's gone. It's gone.
right.
Oh, it was on her side. She just won't want to admit it. That's what it is.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
I checked my volume and everything. It's all good on my side.
It was me.
Okay,
He's like, it was me.
It's him. It's him. We'll just say that.
Might have had his mic too far away from him. Too close to the speaker, maybe.
Yep.
Hey, everybody in the chat. How's everyone going?
Hey, Donny, you don't sound too enthused today. What's the matter?
Oh, I'm building up.
Oh,
I'm building up. This is one I wanted to talk about for a while. I'm building up.
You're building up for it.
Is this one of the ones I get to sit back up and go about?
Yeah, I'm revving up.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
I've asked 4 times what we're talking about, and none of you've answered me yet.
Did you not read it?
Yeah, and I couldn't make head nor tail.
You know what? It's probably best that Tex not know until we actually start talking about it.
Right. Let him tell you the story.
I want his legitimate reaction.
Yeah.
Right. Because not a lot of people know about this, but there's a lot of people who do.
There's
right. And the only time that I've heard about this topic is through Donny. I've never heard of it, but he showed us the book and everything.
Right.
All right.
So I was like, well, okay.
Enlighten us, Mr. Cho.
Okay. Oh, we're going straight into it. Oh, I thought we had business to attend to before
we always have business to attend. What the heck?
Before we dive right
real
into
quick. Real quick. We'll go through real quick.
Okay. Yes. Real quick.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Real quick though.
How fast?
We've got a conference coming up September 19th and 20th. It's called the Crossing Realms Conference. It's in Richmond. There I went again. I want to say Virginia every time. Richmond, Missouri. And it is at the Eagleton Civic Center. And we're going to give you a dose of UFOs, paranormal, and cryptids. Our speaker list is as follows, and I quote, "You're a mean
quote,
Mr. Grinch."
Lord have mercy.
What is going on here?
It's up in front of you.
My dog's fixing to go nuts right now.
Why don't you put the updated one up? Featuring Josh Hurd, Professor Heather Mosier, which is going to be on my show the 4th, by the way. William Lunsford, the Boggy Creek Monster Hunter, dadgummit. Greg Ogles, Mr. Dogman Candy himself, Eye Candy himself, Ron Murphy, Lady Ann Celine, our resident vampiress. Dr. Dean Burcham, he's going to give you your dose of UFOs from the Down Under's perspective, because he's our favorite Australian. Well, no, I can't say that because JoJo will get all over me. Dr. Dean's he's in our top 3 favorite Aussies. How's that go?
He's literally the smartest guy I've ever met in this scene, and Jason agrees as well. And we're both considered heavyweights in terms of smarts, so that's saying something.
Yeah, me and you were considered.
Wait. Say that again.
We're heavyweights.
Frank Cambaletta.
You weren't done reading?
Dan Klein with Haunted Garage, and they're bringing a haunted car. So, yeah.
You ready to go to the next one?
Go ahead. You're killing me here. Special guests include Ken Gerhardt, which I'm sure you know who he is. Dana Stricker, the psychic medium, and Brent Thomas of the Paranormal Portal. And he's feeling very, very under the weather, folks. Y'all send him some feel-good messages. Mike Familian and Ryan Edwards. And there's more, but
yes. Okay, we can go back, Tex. I can help you.
You refuse to put up the right one for me to read.
I know. We have another speaker who is Sir Brian Bowden. Yes. And we have another guest speaker, I guess you would say guest speaker on Friday night. That is going to be Mr. Ramirez himself from Sasquatch Theory. I'm sorry, I have to laugh. So that is not updated, everybody. That is a very small list compared to what we've got. So it's going to be a fun time. Right. You can go to Eventbrite and look under Crossing Realms Conference and get your tickets there. It should be listed in, I guess, all of our descriptions, that it'll be there where you can just click the link and go straight to it. Mr. Gary Spikes is in our chat, and he is posting it. And he is posting it on there also. If you can't see it, again, go to Eventbrite.
And Tex gets his whole
he gets his whole page. Look at him.
Face on his own page. Meanwhile, I'm at the very bottom of the list.
And I want you to know, Donnie, that I spoke to somebody about that, and I was told that it didn't matter. So I went to bat for you, just so you know.
Oh, I know who that person was. I'm going to have words with that person. That's not cool.
Yeah, he's at the more bottom of the list than you are.
Yeah, well, that's just humility. Me being at the bottom is spite.
I mean, yeah, because he really isn't doing podcasts.
Right.
Mr. Jason McLean.
That would be the one.
All right.
All right. Now that I've made Donnie, I've made Donnie mad at Jason. I've got
you fired me up. I'm all fired up now.
Randy says, "That's it. I'm out. I quit."
Said I'm done.
All right. So shall we get to brass taxes,
I
folks?
love you, Randy.
Please do something to make him stop talking. All right.
Okay. So tonight, there's going to be no more speculations about the nature of the paranormal or cryptids or the supernatural. No more question asking. No more wondering, because tonight is all about answers. And when I mean answers, I'm talking about the big enchilada here, baby. The law of one, aka the raw material. Now, for people who don't know, a few months ago, Randy and Brandi were so gracious enough to guest on my show, Donny Cho Says Stuff, and where we discussed the law of one that gives all of the answers to everyone's questions about aliens, cryptids, supernatural, portals, other dimensions. Everything is laid out. All the answers are right there. The nature of reality, the nature of creation, everything is laid out. And we discussed it on my show. The name of the episode is called Your Friendly Neighborhood Arcturians. And Brandi and Randy were taken aback. They were shocked at some of the information that I had to share. So tonight,
absolutely,
I figured for tonight's show, that was more of a comedic show that on my episode. This one is more of an actual, okay, let me explain what it actually is. And then we'll talk about some of the stuff it says and the people behind it. I want to focus especially on the people behind it because they're still around. They still have their own group. So the law of one. This was a series of channelings that were written down in book form and audio recordings over the course of 106 different conversations between 1981 and 1984 in Kentucky. Let me introduce the three people who were involved. Okay. So it was done by three people. The first person was a gentleman here by the name of Don Elkins, who passed away in 1984. This is the guy that started the group. His resume, by the way, is pretty ridiculous. The guy was a mechanical engineering and physics professor. He started like physics departments, I believe, at the University of Alaska. Like he started their physics program. The guy was a tenured professor. He left his position to become a full-time pilot for Boeing and then joined up with the Korean War and became, I believe he was a master sergeant there. Once he got out of the war, he continued to work for Boeing. And he dedicated from like 1955 all the way to his death in 1984. This guy devoted himself to UFO research. He had authored numerous books, started groups. And the reason why I think the story of the Law of One is interesting, because it really is a story about people who are into the paranormal and UFOs before all this, right? Before this whole scene, before the YouTube scene where people could just easily network on YouTube, right? They didn't have the luxury of that kind of technology or networking. So they did it the old-fashioned way, right? They met up with people. They started their own groups. And he started let's just say a CE5 meditation group. You guys are aware of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Randy, you're not aware of CE5 meditation groups?
Do I look like somebody that's ever meditated?
It's by Dr. Greer. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Dr. Greer's famous for them, right? He takes people over out into the desert. They all meditate. They do all this transcendental meditation stuff.
Okay, so he takes them out there. They do peyote and have fun, right? That way I'm understanding it.
I don't know if they do peyote. That's a little. How dare you accuse these
trust
people
me,
of
if they're doing transcendental
substance
meditation,
abuse?
They got something along that line.
We have no proof, Randy. So we can't really say that.
Okay,
Sweat Lodge. Here we go. Got it.
So yeah, like in the 1960s, he basically networks with a whole bunch of people who are interested in UFO research, authors a bunch of books. They start these meditation groups to try to channel and connect with extraterrestrial or extra dimensional consciousnesses to try to establish communication. He hooks up with this lady, Carla Reichert, who's also she was part of the group. They met in the 60s, but as they were involved in the group, it kind of dwindled down to the point where it was only Don Eckert, Carla Reichert, and eventually they hooked up with the third member of the group, Jim McCarthy. He is the only one of the three who's still with us today. He's still alive. And between 1981 from 1981, okay, so imagine like there's this big meditation group of like people who are trying to establish contact with UFOs, right? They dwindled down to just 3, and through their research and meditation, they actually all move in together. Carla was actually the one who actually channeled the entity known as Ra. And I'm not talking about Ra like the ancient Egyptian god. Ra was just what it called itself.
Yeah.
And it basically laid out the foundation for a lot of new age thought. A lot of like, I like to say, with the paranormal and the supernatural, right? The kind of stuff that we like to talk about. For people like them, the paranormal and supernatural and UFOs was really just a stepping stone into the next phase of woo. We're talking maximum woo. Because people like us, people in the chat, people like our good friend here, Freaky Geek and Pops, and all these people like you and me, we're like low, mid-level woo, right? You know, we like to speculate about Bigfoot and Dogman, talk about encounters, ask questions on their nature. These people, on the other hand, these people are straight up communicating with 6th density beings, 7th density beings, right? We're on the 3rd density, and they actually mapped it all out here, all the different densities.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. What's the densities? What is a density?
Okay, so we're
because I know a lot of people that are a lot more dense than others. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so we're in the meat world, right? We're in the meat density. We're the scrubs of the multiverse.
Wait, put that back up. What the heck?
Okay, where's so we're 3rd density. So we're the meat? Yeah, we're 3rd density. So 3rd density is characterized by self-awareness. We are here. Our self-conscious is veiled from the conscious to give a genuine choice of polarity. We have a choice to either serve ourselves or serve others. And we have a chemical body, right? We have chemistry-based bodies. That's 3rd density, right? So they record these conversations. Now, here's how it looked when they did it, right? This is an actual photo. That's Don Elkins. That's Carla Reichert. Carla would. It's a lot similar to the Edgar Casey stuff. Carla would enter a meditative trance. They would have these things. It was basically they took a Bible, like a chalice with like virgin water in it, some incense and some oil and some other stuff. It had to be like right by her head. Like everything had to be very exact. It only worked when it was just the three of them, no more, no less. Her body had to be situated in a very specific cardinal direction. All the stuff here had to be arranged right by her head. And she would be blindfolded in a trance. And basically, Don Elkins would be the one asking the questions and recording everything. Jim McCarthy was kind of the one who set up the whole session, right? Who arranged everything. Don Elkins was the recorder, the transcriber, and Carla here, she was the voice of Raw. Now, throughout these recordings, she talks about the seventh density. There's a whole bunch of material out there. It's all publicly available online. Like you can access it right now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a share screen to show you what the actual website looks like, if that's okay with you guys.
Yes. We shouldn't get in trouble for that one.
No, we're not.
I wouldn't think so. It'd be driving hits to their website, so free advertising.
Yeah,
so.
this is lawof1.info.
Right.
You guys can go here right now. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's a search bar, and everything's pretty neatly arranged in categories. Like, if I go into the categories here, we got different topics and questions and conversations about tarot, the densities, UFOs, what are wanderers, about white magic, Orion, with people. They ask all sorts of questions, right? They ask stuff about Abraham Lincoln, Adolf Hitler, Jesus, Moses, Edgar Casey. So you want answers? There it is, folks. The answers are all right there. Now, a couple years back when I first got into the scene and going into these YouTube chat shows like we're doing right now, I was once but a humble, faceless name in the chat. Just like you folks here in the chat. I was just a random guy who occasionally said humorous things. And I was on this one show or in this one chat room, and I met an individual by the name of Brian Bowden. Y'all's may be familiar because he was on Rob's show last night. And I was like, oh, who is this guy? And I remember he mentioned the law of one. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this dude's serious. I was surprised because I was like, I didn't know there were people in this scene who actually knew the text or knew about the works of the law of one. But there he was. So, before I go any further, guys, do you have any questions or comments or thoughts on the law of one?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So you had one guy that arranged everything. You had the other guy that was asking questions, and you had the chick that was in the meditative state, right?
Yeah.
How do we know any of what she's saying was true? How do we know that she was truly in a meditative state? How do we know she just wasn't pulling things out of her butt and answering questions?
Yeah, we don't. You just have to read the text.
Are we just supposed to take these? I got a big problem with this. I really do.
Okay.
I really, really do.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to ask too is it's right along the same lines, Tex, as what you were asking, though.
Mm-hmm.
But why did all three of them move in together?
Oh, there's a story behind that.
Okay, well, I'm sure
that.
we'll hear that one.
Yeah.
And then, second of all, why didn't anybody else try to switch positions to see if they would get the same answers, different answers, or something else entirely?
Yeah.
Well,
why did they not try that?
They all three live together. I'm sure there's a lot of position swapping. Anyway, go ahead.
Funny you should mention Tex. Funny you should mention.
You had to open that daggum can of worms, didn't you?
So, all right.
Don Elkins, the leader of the group, the guy who was writing everything down, the guy with the super impressive resume. I mean, all three of these people had master's degrees. These people are quite educated, all of them. But
right.
I mean, this guy was a bona fide professor, started physics programs at these major universities, right?
I mean, he had a brain then.
Yeah.
He had a brain. His
This guy-
IQ was up there.
This
Got
guy
it.
was no joke, right?
Right.
So apparently, as the story goes, this guy had experienced some pretty bad like sexual trauma as a kid, and as a result, he was described as very emotionally cut off. He was, in fact, known to be celibate.
Okay.
Okay.
He had very negative views towards marriage, relationships. So people described his personality as very much like Spock. Like everything was logical. The guy never expressed any emotion. John McCarthy was one of those guys who he was like very well educated. He has a master's in education, but one day he decided to go off into the woods and just do like research and like live kind of as a hermit, almost as a recluse, until he hooked up
Off
with
the grid.
off
You
the
could
grid.
say it.
That's-
He's a hippie.
Yeah, he was a hippie, and then he hooked up with the UFO research group. She joins up in the 60s in the meditation group back when it was bigger. She falls in love with this guy.
Oh.
She's following him around like a puppy. But the guy doesn't want anything, he's not interested in that kind of relationship. But she's glued to this guy, right? He moves in, and as a trio, he and she apparently are, let's just say, friends with benefits.
Okay.
Because he's not offering up anything. Because
He's not offering. He's just not biting what she's, what
But
she's
he
trying to
needs
throw out
her
there.
for the research, because according to Don Elkins, she's the only one that can channel Ra. So he needs her, like he relies on her for his research and his work.
Okay, so this is really starting to sound a lot like a Jay Gal song from the 80s, okay? Love hurts, or love stinks, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so this
She
book
loves
is
him,
supposed to.
he loves,
Yeah. Well, this book is supposed to answer all of our questions,
All
right?
of the questions.
All of it. But see, there's only one person giving the answers in this.
Yeah. Ra, a sixth density being.
Or her.
No, she's just the instrument.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, just like YouTube and the microphone and everything. These are our instruments to get our words through. Imagine if we are like Ra. Carla Reichert is YouTube. That's all. She's just a medium. We are the source.
Are you sure we're not doing the comedy one still?
What are you talking about? This is serious business, man.
I don't know. I don't
This
know.
research group is still around. They got their whole social media like group and everything. I was just looking at their profile right before the show. I mean, they're still active.
How many people are
As a
in it?
matter of fact, I'm thinking we could get some of those members of that group as guests on our show.
We should. Because I have 1,000 questions.
I
Like,
need
how
to
do you
talk to
know?
Bowden about that. I'm guessing.
Like,
I'm
how
willing to
do
bet
you
he might
know?
actually know one or two of them.
Yeah, like
you know
the
what?
first
This is
one.
no different. This is no different. It's no different than any other cult that I've ever heard of.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I'm thinking. But
Yes,
then
sir.
again, I mean, we've heard crazier stuff.
I did look into the
absolutely,
group.
absolutely. I interviewed two people that lived together, and moved out on a mountain on top of a mountain on Maine. She gave birth to 12 hybrid alien children, and they converse daily with two different races of aliens. So and they were great people. They were fantastic people, the nicest, sweetest people you'll meet in your life. Okay?
Right.
But
Isn't he gone now? If I'm not mistaken.
yeah, he's unfortunately passed away.
Yep. She's still around though.
Yeah, she's still. I guess I haven't heard hiding her
I
hair
haven't heard
from
from
her.
her either. So yeah.
But it all boils down to whose line are you going to swallow?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you watching this chat, Randy, by any chance?
I was on the starred side because I was trying to get the question that Freaky asked done real quick. I threw it up there earlier. I didn't think they did anything as far as predicting of the future. They just laid the groundwork, right, with all these.
Yeah, it wasn't so much prophecy stuff. It was more like
Yeah.
this is how reality works. The law of one is basically the concept that all creation stems from one source, right?
Right.
And then we in this current density, the third density, as conscious beings, we're given a choice, an overall choice. Do we serve others or do we serve ourselves? Serving those who choose to serve themselves, that's the path of evil and darkness. Those who choose to serve others, that's the golden rule, right? Universal love. Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? As Jesus talks about in the Bible, right? Basically, that's the ultimate choice that faces creatures in our chemical meat suits. Now, depending on which choice we go by, which path we take, as we go further along in our voyage through reality, we may or may not graduate to the fourth density, the density
more we
of
get
wisdom.
in touch with our midichlorians, the stronger the force.
Do you hear this tone, guys? Tex is mocking us.
Something.
Now you know why I put that
How dare
thing
he.
in parentheses. The probably.
Right. But see, this is another thing. This is exactly what I was thinking. And Kitty Catty Whack, love the name.
Yeah.
Anyway, they said, okay, in writing a script world, she could have made up Ra just to stay close to him because she was in love with him and would do anything for the man she loved.
100%.
That makes sense.
You know
like
what?
She would act her heart out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If you push all this aside, all the love triangle thing and all this kind of stuff, and it comes down to proof. Okay.
Yeah.
There ain't none.
No, they had absolutely no checks and
Yeah,
balances.
no proof. Yeah, no proof.
The only thing. Okay, we would have to form a checks and balances system, much like you have to have in work. If depending on what psychic medium you put your trust in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'll be honest with you, folks, that stuff didn't hold any water with me until I got slapped in the face with people that knew things that they weren't supposed to know.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, T-Bone.
Thanks, T-Bone.
And I've only met 2 that I think are legit. Okay, as far as my experience goes. Okay. And this is it's no different than David Koresh telling people that he's the son of God. He's the second coming.
Right.
Where's the proof? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me something that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and I harken back every time I hear somebody talking about stuff like this, and everybody, it's all about a belief system, right? It's all about the belief that you have in whatever subject it is. And I quote a movie every time I hear this kind of stuff. The one movie I quote is Secondhand Lines, and Uncle Hub look at him. Dang it, boy, just because something ain't true don't mean you can't believe in it.
That's right.
Right.
So it's about your beliefs. So
right.
Do you believe enough to say that was what had actually happened? Some people obviously do.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
But
so go ahead,
I was
Brandi.
going to say, go on, Donnie. Tell us more of the story. I need to know more.
So,
well, yeah, I got one for you real quick, though. I want you to
Sure.
answer this because this one was one I was asking with Codega earlier. I'm assuming I said that right, Codega. Who or what are the Wanderers?
Let me give you the LNL. That's the name of the research group, the LLR research group.
Okay.
Let me give you their definition of what the Wanderers are. And because I like this explanation, it's very succinct. Hold on. They have a wiki, guys. A wiki.
Oh, I believe it.
They have a what?
A wiki.
What is
In other
that?
words, they're on Wikipedia.
No, they have their own little sub wiki.
Oh, they got it on a sub wiki. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
They got an online encyclopedia. Okay, it supposedly gives all
Yeah,
that.
they
I
got
don't
their
know
own.
what the hell a wiki is, so whatever.
You go to
How do you not know what
Wikipedia,
a
right?
wiki is?
I don't have a Wikipedia that I know of.
No, I said you go to Wikipedia.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's a wiki.
Okay.
It's essentially fan sourced knowledge.
Okay.
So basically, okay, you know what? I can't find it. It's okay. Wanderers are essentially, according to the raw material, these are more advanced souls, like higher density souls, like fourth density,
Okay.
fifth density, that have incarnated on Earth in human bodies. According to Raw, there's about 65 million of them on Earth in any given time. And these are advanced souls who may or may not know about their path or their mission or their service. And these are basically people who move the spiritual evolution of humanity along.
Okay. So
Okay.
when you're talking about these densities, like the first density would be, I guess, the bottom of the barrel. Like we're kind of like number 3. And
Yeah,
then
we're
it seems
3.
like everyone after us gets more enlightened and, more
Yeah.
educated, more everything.
A deeper
So,
level. Yeah.
and we're
exactly.
number 3 out of what? 7, 8?
8
Oh,
that are
there.
known to Raw, because even Raw claimed to not even know like the higher levels. Like some of them, like he said, beyond 8th, he's like, I don't even know.
Okay. So my second concern is calls itself Raw.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the first time in history we've heard that name.
No.
Right.
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 Egyptian sun god.
It's the sun god. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask 2 questions that everybody in this chat is wondering, and I haven't seen them ask it yet. And everybody on this panel is probably, I don't know. So,
We're nice.
according to Raw,
Mm-hmm.
what is Bigfoot and what is Dogman?
I told you this answer a while back on your show when you had, it's one of the first times I was there. According to Raw, things that we understand to be cryptids and fae are the former inhabitants of Maldek. You guys remember?
So they're alien. Yeah.
Maldek was the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. All of that debris there was once a planet. And a lot of mainstream astronomers, they have a strong working theory that was a planet one. There was once a planet between Mars and Jupiter that essentially got caught up in Jupiter's gravity well and got torn to pieces, and that's why there's an asteroid belt there.
Yep.
But at one point, there was a planet, and those inhabitants, when the planet was destroyed, those inhabitants themselves were also destroyed. But then their souls, because they had nowhere else to incarnated here. But when they first got here, they got here without bodies. And eventually, those entities, you see them as orbs, fae, but some of them actually inhabited the bodies of physical creatures, animals, and basically forced them to evolve into what we understand to be Bigfoot and Dogman today. Boom. Answers. Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
I got nothing.
Yes.
that's the woo-woo train.
Mystery solved. Boom.
That is the woo-woo train.
Yeah.
Done left the tracks.
Okay.
Going downhill, no brakes.
Maldek.
Yeah. I'm about to start listening for Soundgarden. Wherever
Look it
they're
up,
at.
guys. Type
Soul
it down.
Asylum. Runaway
Maldek.
Train.
You can see for yourselves.
Here's another one for you, real quick. T-Bone through this one. Who are the children of the Law of One?
I don't understand that question because the law of one is more of a universal principle. It wouldn't have children because
Maybe it's a group that follows it.
I mean, we have children.
Oh, by the
We're
way,
a
let
density.
me read to you what the basic densities are. Okay.
I'm like, we're a density. We have children.
So the first density is beingness. This is like earth, wind, water, fire, minerals, basic elements. Second density is growth, autonomous life, organisms, plants to animals. They develop self-awareness through interactions with the environment. They have a chemical body. So this is like lower life forms. We're third density self-awareness. We're conscious. We're sentience. Fourth density is love. Jesus is the archetype of the fourth density. These are lessons of light and wisdom. Earth has been in fourth density vibration since 2012, guys. You know the Mayan prophecy?
Yep. The end of the Mayan calendar at that time.
Fifth density is light and wisdom. So the Buddha is the archetype of the fifth density. This is the people on the fifth density. They learn to perfectly balance love, light, and wisdom. They have a body of pure light, and they have 50 million year cycles. Sixth density is unity. This is the density of archangels, bodies of pure light. Seventh density is the gateway, is one with all, having no memory, no identity, no past or future, but existing in all. Serves as teachers to the higher selves in sixth density. These are like universal minds. And eighth density is octave. Once the past octave universe has been absorbed into itself through the black hole of the great central sun/logos, a new octave begins. So that's an even, it's like each density is a note on the scale, but then once you hit 8, you go into a new octave and then you go up densities there. So there could be like a bajillion densities we don't even know about.
Right. But we're all basing it on one woman's testimony who has no backup.
What? No, it's not her testimony. She's but a vessel. Look at her. She's barely even there.
Well, you can call it whatever you want to, but out of her mouth.
Yeah.
It's out of her mouth that there's all these densities. Okay. All right. Continue with the story, Donny.
Okay. So should I tell you what winds up happening to these three?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Well,
we need to talk about it.
Yeah, because I got a sneaky suspicion that she ends up being worshipped in some form or fashion.
Well, what happens was the house that they were living in, the landlord something happened with the house where they all had to move out, right? So
they got evicted.
It's called not being able to pay your rent.
Well, but that's the thing. He was still working for Boeing. As a matter of fact, Don Elkins, he was supporting everyone financially because these two, they weren't working. They were spending their full-time researching. He was also researching, but he was the main breadwinner.
Yeah.
Because he was working for Boeing. The problem is when they got kicked out and they had to find a new home, they wound up renting a new house. They all moved in. But the problem was the commute got worse because, he had to commute back and forth to the airport for his work. Things got more stressful for him. So he was having to balance like a full-time job and the research and supporting these two financially because they weren't bringing in any income. So he was getting really stressed out and just a lot of pressure on him. Now, during one of the sessions, the raw being was warning them that the balance of the three was about to be thrown off because when Carla offered to kind of lighten his burden by trying to like spearhead some of the research, he actually started getting very paranoid and depressed because you have to keep in mind this guy was already dealing with like a lot of like childhood trauma as well. He was repressed because he had no emotional output, and basically he put the weight of the world on his shoulders. Well, turns out Don Elkins starts losing a bunch of weight. He starts getting very paranoid. Still continuing on with the research, still maintaining, decent relations with everyone else, but everyone around him could tell he was kind of fading. So Don, in order to help deal with some of his issues, decides to seek help, right? For mental illness. He goes on medication, goes to counseling, goes to a mental hospital, but he finds that it wasn't for him. You have to keep in mind this is the early 80s, so mental health care back then wasn't the greatest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he comes out of it. They continue to research. In 1984, this guy is pretty much fading. It was said that he was about 6'6". He was a tall guy. He wound up being like 140 pounds at 6'6". right? So Carla and Jim were starting to worry about his overall health, and they thought he was like physically dying. So they get one of those court orders to have him committed,
Oh no.
right? Because he was again 6'6", 140 pounds. This guy is dying, right?
Yeah.
The police come to try to get him. The guy, Don Elkins, realizes what's happening. He realizes he's being committed against his will. He already had a terrible experience with the mental hospitals prior when he committed it himself. He's resisting. Now there's a standoff. Don has a firearm. So now it gets real serious. Now there's like 30 cops. They're having a standoff outside his house. He's got a gun to his head, holding himself hostage. Carla and Jim go to the neighbor's house to try to get him on the phone to try to calm him down. But the police, they really botched the whole thing. And eventually, when they start shooting tear gas into the windows, Don Elkins goes to the back door, puts one in his temple, and ends his own life.
Okay. Here's the issue I got with this whole thing. First of all, I realize the guy's a little mentally unstable to start with. Okay. And you're saying that he was 6'6" and weighed 140 pounds, right?
That's what it said.
Okay, so he was already starving himself, pretty much. It sounds like, as it is, or he was sick and was something else. The police, on the other hand, are you freaking kidding me? Why are you going to shoot tear gas into a place to take somebody who's in there by himself?
Because he's got a firearm now.
That's
On
all fine and
himself.
dandy. I understand.
That's on
Tear
himself.
gas is not going to stop him.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
That was outright stupidity on the police part, but I imagine they had a procedure of some sort. But you wouldn't have done that. Honestly, I can't think of a lot of people that would have done that with a single person with no hostages type thing. You know what I mean?
Well, that's today. That's today. Yeah. That may, back when this happened, though, Randy, we don't know what procedures they had in place, because we all know that some of the procedures they had in place at certain times were not quite the best.
Not the greatest. Yeah, I understand. But
no.
Dang, that's just
and they could only use what they had available to them. Maybe tear gas was the only thing. I mean, they couldn't send in people because he was armed. They couldn't do anything. I mean, I just don't know why they just didn't try to talk him down out of it.
Yeah, and they might have. We're only getting part of it. They may have done that too.
Right. And I don't get this either. Yeah. This guy took care of the other two.
Mm-hmm.
How dare they do that? He took care of them financially, took care. That's the sugar daddy without the sugar. That is like, that's the unicorn, people. That's the unicorn.
That's what Brandi wants.
You know what I'm saying?
So y'all know.
That's, what I'm saying? Why would you bite the hand that fed you, for real? Because now they were having him committed. Then he's not working, and they wouldn't have any income because they just didn't get jobs, which they should have. Maybe he would have felt better. You know what I mean? Maybe he would have been more confident in what they were doing, if they were working too. But he was taking the burden of all of them. And they were basically just throwing it in his face, saying, well, we don't care. You just, we don't care about your stress. Right. Now that you're overly stressed, like, Donny, you had said, Ross said there would be, something happening where there would be problems in between the three. Well, I think they saw this coming. They saw it coming.
She was planning it.
Right. Like they saw it coming and they were trying to figure out how to get him out of the picture, is what it sounds like to me.
The way I read it, it sounded like they were more concerned for his actual well-being when they realized like he was losing all this weight and he was becoming paranoid. Like if you see a guy who is like of healthy size become 140 pounds at 6'6", you're just like, dude, this guy, if you don't do something, he's gonna die.
Yeah, but look at the amount of stress.
Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like to know how his life insurance was written and who was a benefactor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What if he didn't have any life insurance though?
He
Well,
worked for Boeing. Come on.
I don't think
You
you
would
gotta
think-
have
are.
something.
Here's the thing. I don't think they're eligible to receive any to put in any claim if it's self-induced. You know.
It depends. Depends on the policy.
Hmm.
Well, and then you got to think of this: if they get him committed, anything
Yeah.
that he had,
Yeah, they were just trying
they
to get
could
him.
have
Yeah.
they could have got a power of attorney and taken everything he had.
They may have already had it, and that's why they were
Possibly,
getting him committed. Because
Right.
if they were getting him committed, there's not a stranger off the street that can. Oh, we want this guy committed. No, there had to be
No.
a paper trail somewhere. We're not getting all the story.
right? Because something sounds fishy. I mean, because that man didn't lose all that weight overnight.
They drove.
I mean, because
him.
in the
Don't
picture he
fool
looks
yourself,
healthy.
people. They drove him to this.
Mhm.
He was already traumatized. He already had mental illness. Okay, and it was just progressing. And they drove him. If not they, her specifically drove him to this.
It definitely was a bad decision to try to get him committed against as well.
They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
they were leeches. That's all they were. And I
Mhm.
guarantee you, somewhere in that paperwork, if he didn't have any family or anything like that, I guarantee you, she was probably benefactor of his stuff.
Probably, or something where she could get at whatever he had
Yeah,
if he were to be committed. But like I said, he didn't lose that weight overnight. So they knew beforehand that this
Right.
was going to happen. They knew that he was on a very wrong road.
Well,
absolutely.
And
even
they
Don
watched
Elkins
him.
admitted there was something wrong. Like he actually had more firearms that he like relinquished because he didn't want to run the risk of actually harming himself or anyone around him. But the problem is by the time the police shot that tear gas through, he had one pistol left.
Okay, if
Well,
we're all about love, light, and happiness, why do you have so many firearms?
That I don't know. I can't answer
that's
that.
a good question.
Yeah.
It is a good question. I mean, I know why I do because I'm an enthusiast. So there's that.
Yeah.
But why would he have so many being into this law of one and just looking for answers? I mean, it doesn't sound like he would need protecting from anything.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've never owned a firearm in my entire life because of my martial arts skills. My body's a weapon.
Yes, we know.
What, Randy? What is that about?
K-pop foo.
My body's a weapon. I have to get it registered, guys. With the
That's
state.
that's the smell coming off of it, not the body itself. All right.
I know the ancient Asian arts, guys.
Right. Well, Mickey brought up a good point in chat. She said, that, her son, which I know her son is Brandon, and
Mhm.
if that child stopped eating, or something,
Mhm.
we would all notice.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
his eating habits would have to change. His body language would
Right.
change. His all over attitude would change.
Right. Now, here's the thing, though. Are you guys everyone here is familiar with Lord of the Rings, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And some of us have actually read it, right? Randy, have you read the Lord of the Rings?
I've read everything, Hobbit all the way
Okay.
through the Lord of the Rings.
Okay,
and
so
Two
Randy
Towers.
will know this. Randy, did you read the Silmarillion?
The what?
The Silmarillion.
Which part was that one? That was in the Two Towers, wasn't it?
No, the Silmarillion was a separate book. So Tolkien actually, J.R.R. Tolkien, he
didn't-
wrote the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He wrote the Hobbit, but there was a fifth book,
Yeah.
the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion, it actually reads kind of like the Bible, where it just establishes the lore from like the beginning of the universe to the events of the Hobbit.
But isn't that he referenced that though in the Two Towers when
He
he's talking about
references
Sauron
it,
and
He
Yeah.
references it in the Two Towers, but it was an actual book that he released after
okay,
Lord of the Rings.
I never got that one then.
You should read it. It was actually pretty good. But it was the
Okay.
whole lore book, right? So
Yeah.
imagine that, okay? So the Law of One sort of became like the Silmarillion for books like this, right? We talked about this last time, the
Yeah, yeah.
Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. This is written by a guy who, I guess he was part of, according to the author, Project Blue Book and all that stuff. And a lot of the material in here actually references the concepts and ideas that were introduced by the Law of One. Namely, now you guys have heard this, when people deep in the UFO lore, whenever they reference the Galactic Federation, whenever they reference the Orion Empire, which is the evil side, and the Galactic Federation, those are the good guys. All that talk, all that new age UFO talk, all of it comes from this baby. This is where it all gets introduced right here. A lot of them, this is the Silmarillion for a lot of these deep UFO, like people, new agey groups. This is the source material. This is like the Silmarillion, if all that stuff is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That's why, even though it may be hokey, it may be all BS, but you know what? It's still important because a lot of people are influenced by these ideas.
I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned earlier
just
how
don't.
Brian Bowden knew about that. He knew about the Law of One. I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying he's a believer or a follower, or nor am I.
No.
But I'm like, oh, so this is where all those ideas come from.
Yeah.
All right.
So there is something to it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I could believe anything in that book because I mean, this is the words of Ra coming through a woman who we don't know if she was channeling anything or if she was just making this stuff up to have attention or to get the attention of the other man. So, I mean, there's so much backstory to it that I don't know if I could believe a word of it. I mean, it'd be interesting to read to see, you know, the thoughts and the, or at least find some thought process, I guess, just to see what it said. But, you know, nobody has the answers.
Okay.
Nobody.
Hey, time out. We're like 7 minutes over, but
you know, Donny Cho, meme of the week.
Okay,
please tell me you did want to take the Calgon away type thing.
Okay. One quick thing. Thank you, Lavera. Thank you so very much.
Yep. Thank you much.
Thank you, Lavera. Okay, guys.
Awesome.
So my meme of the week is going to be talking about, I believe there's another cryptid that doesn't get enough shine by the cryptid community that we need to discuss.
Okay,
because there's all sorts of new ones coming out now, right? We had Dogman and Bigfoot. Now we've got like Goatman, right? And now there's like Frogman.
Well, Goatman's been around for a while, but that's more on the demonic side.
Goatman's been around a lot longer than Dogman. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There is, however, one cryptid that has been grossly ignored, and it's about time that we just face it. I mean, it's out there, and we have to acknowledge this cryptid, and it's about time someone in this community starts talking about it. And that is centaurs. Step aside, Bigfoot, because centaurs are real. Centaurs, guys. Centaurs. And Bigfoot's all in the corner.
That's why the Aztecs thought the Spaniards were centaurs when they first landed.
And Bigfoot's all in the corner. He's like, I still exist, damn it. No, Bigfoot, your time is done. Make way for the centaurs. That's going to be the new focus of our cryptid conversations. Centaurs.
It's, that cryptid's in for 2025, everyone, just to let you know.
That's an actual centaur you're looking at, guys.
I'm with Danny Stanton. Man, bear, pig. Man, bear, pig all day.
There you go.
Centaurs.
Actually, I thought it could be our little friend Nessie.
Hey, do you guys want to listen to the actual audio of the channeling?
Oh, absolutely.
They got it on the website.
As long as we won't get dinged, Donnie. Well, we won't.
I don't think we'll get dinged. Again, this is all publicly available. So you know how this is all question and answer. You see
Right.
that little, you gotta look real hard, but that little blue thing, that's the actual audio of the actual recording of Raw. You ready for it? It's gonna be a
Oh,
bit
yeah.
hard to listen to, but so listen carefully.
What you do, Donnie, before you do that,
Mhm.
share when you share your screen, share the entire screen, not just a window. And there's a button that you can press to share audio as well. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier.
I think I did that.
Okay. Give it a shot. Let's see what we got.
Let's see if let me know if you can hear it, okay? Let's
Okay.
find out. Ready?
Go ahead.
Then
Yeah.
each of the wanderers here acts as a function of the biases he has developed.
This is Don Elkins
in any
speaking,
way
asking the
he
question.
sees fit to communicate or simply be in his polarity to aid the
Okay, hold on. Let me skip to one where it goes straight to her.
Are there any wanderers with these elements?
These are planetary entities harvested wanderers only in the sense that they chose in fourth density love.
All right, that's just a little clip, but that's how she sounds throughout this whole time. She's speaking one word at a time. Every answer, she starts with "I am Raw."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing is did you listen to how he was asking the questions? It sounded like the same monotone voice that he was using when he was talking too.
Yeah, it's hard to hear, guys. I don't want to play too much of it just in case we might
Yeah.
get dinged, but go on
Yeah.
the website, lawofone.info. You could just click on the little play buttons.
Now, when did they start doing these quote unquote sessions though? 81, you said?
Between 81 and 84. It was 106 conversation sessions.
I can understand a little bit of the monotoneness then because remember in the 60s, 70s stuff when they did educational films and such, shows, the guys doing the actual, I want to say emceeing, but the narrators and stuff, a lot of times when they were doing were very monotone. I mean, I can kind of understand where he came from on it, but hers coming back, I don't know about that.
I don't believe in that either. I do not think so. I mean, look at the movies that came out in the 70s and the 80s, and
Oh
it
yeah,
wasn't
no, yeah,
monotone. You know,
but
and
I'm
even
talking about public service
remember
type
Saturday
stuff.
mornings? Do you remember
Yeah.
Saturday mornings when they used to
Oh yeah.
talk about, they'd have the little cartoons about the government, you know,
Mm-hmm.
my name is
Conjunction,
Bill, I'm only a Bill,
yeah,
that type of thing.
Schoolhouse Rock.
None of that was monotone.
Yeah.
None of that.
No,
So
I agree with you.
can't see why he would be.
I'm thinking because he is a Korean War veteran. That's when he was raised and where his mindset is that 50s, 60s time frame more than anything else. That's what I'm thinking he's doing. He's
No,
trying
wasn't it
to
the hippie
sound.
guy asking questions? The hippie guy?
No, it's that other
No,
guy.
it was Don Elkins.
Don Elkins asking.
Yeah, Don
Yeah.
Oh,
Elkins
well,
was the
he
one
was the one with
speaking.
no emotion.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
the
Yeah,
one with no
Okay.
exactly.
So
emotion,
that
yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. I thought it was the hippie guy. I'm sorry. That was my, I misheard that.
Yeah. I just think he was trying to make himself sound more intellectual, shall we say?
Or that's just how he was.
Yeah, it could be. It very well could be. Yeah.
Because if they said he was kind of withdrawn and didn't have any type of emotion, that could be. But it was almost like she was almost mimicking him, but in her own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think she had the hots for him. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And she was going to
She was
say
stroking the
anything.
ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, after Don Elkin passed away, Carla actually wound up marrying Jim McCarthy, and they wound up spending the rest of their lives in Kentucky. Carla actually passed away in 2015. But she and Jim, they released a bunch of books together about the Law of One. The Law of One itself wasn't released until years later because they wanted time to pass because of the way that Don Elkins died. They didn't like release it right away. They waited like till fairly recently to release a lot of this stuff. So
They waited until his life insurance ran out. That's what they did.
oh,
I think they just waited until any claims he had on the information was gone.
Yeah.
When that, when anything that he may not copyrighted but branded or whatever he had done, it was gone.
right.
Yeah.
So then they could continue on with that. Yeah. There's something hokey in that.
There's
But
a
here's the
lot.
thing, though.
Something?
You guys have heard of 20 and backs, right?
No.
You're familiar with the concept.
No.
You're not familiar? Okay.
What is it, like suicides when you're running on a basketball court? Or
20 and backs, it's if you listen to like the confessionals, they talk about this, and some other, I think Turner talks about this sometimes.
Okay.
20 and backs are basically the accounts of people who have allegedly been kidnapped by some government group in some, like the secret space programs, where they get taken as kids and they get indoctrinated into the secret space program, and they work for some shadow or government with aliens and UFOs and extraterrestrials. Some have reported to have gone to the moon and worked there, others Mars, other planets and other solar systems. And then they get taken back to their time. They were first taken as kids 20 years later, but then they go back in time 20 years. That's why it's called 20 and back. Now, you say what you will about those accounts, whether or not you want to believe them, but the funny thing is a lot of them, they reference the Galactic Federation, the Orion groups. A lot of these concepts that were introduced in the Law of One are talked about with these 20 and back accounts.
Okay.
I don't know. There's just something really
Baby, that's
off.
maximum woo right there.
Once again, we've already established I am not of the woo level much at all. Okay.
You're woo level like 2 or 3. Brandy,
I'm
you
like
said
a
you're
woo
woo
level
level 4.
0.5.
Yeah.
4 or 5. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 or 5. But and that's being on a relatively good level is 4 or 5. I mean, we should just not believe everything we see and hear. We should also question, these things. But this is on some other type of level that Tex said it in the beginning. It's kind of like a cult thing. It's just like that's what they were doing. They were trying to create.
The LLR research group is still out there. They're still doing
I
their
expect
thing.
them to come running at you with dang things to hold in your hands and tell what level you're on. Okay, the Church of Beep Boop Beep type thing.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like they created their own Bible to
It is like
worship their
Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, like they worship their own little Bible that this is the answer to everything in our universe. This is
they
it.
explain ghosts. They explain Jesus. They even talk about Edgar Casey. They talk about the afterlife, what really happens, what angels actually are.
But this is all words from one woman with no scientific proof.
Right. No proof whatsoever.
Just like every other false prophet out there, making up their own churches and cults and all of this other kind of stuff out there.
Right.
It's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, honestly, it is kind of weird that they all three moved in together and he financed them and let them research.
All right.
Yeah.
What were they researching when he was at work? What were they researching?
I almost forgot to mention this other nifty little bit of trivia. So before what they were doing the Law of One, back in the 60s when they were doing that bigger UFO meditation group,
Yes.
Don Elkins and Carla Reichert actually wrote a movie together, and it was made. It was a cheesy movie. It was
Really?
called, are you ready for this?
It
Yes.
better not be the Bigfoot movie.
It was called Invasion of the Girl Snatchers.
Now that's a perfect 60s B movie right there.
Now, Carla Reichert herself played one of the characters in the movie. These are a couple screenshots from that film. That's her right there. She was a hottie back then.
Oh, that's makeup.
That's her. This is an actual shot from the film. And it was called Invasion of the Girl Snatchers. Written by Don Elkins and Carla Reichert.
That sounds like a Donny Cho movie night show.
Yeah, it does.
Actually, it's actually available publicly on YouTube. Like, we could do it, but I actually try to watch it. It's god awful. It makes that
It's worse than the
movie we watched look like
god awful.
Really?
We won't be able to get into it at all.
Yeah.
God.
It just, like I said, it sounds like they were just in it to make some money. And that's even evident from their works previous to Dan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's just funny that there's a lot of like UFO literature out there that uses the Law of One as source material.
What does that tell you about that?
Yeah,
that's up to you guys.
That people are reaching for answers.
No, I'm asking your opinion, Donnie. You can't just sit up here and spit stuff at us. I want your opinion on this.
I'm the one to offer the story. It's your guys' jobs to give us your interpretations. Give us your.
Well, that's an avoiding the question all day long. If I ever saw one.
I mean, Don, what do you really think about the Law of One? I mean, you've read it.
Okay,
you've read it.
I read it through. Okay, I read it all through.
You can't sit here and be the most knowledgeable person about this subject and not offer us an opinion.
I'll tell you exactly. Okay, personally,
come on, Pilates, give us something.
All right. Personally, the way I treat the Law of One is pretty close to how I treat pro wrestling. I treat it like kayfabe.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, like if I suspend my disbelief and I just read it as if it was all real, and then I see the other stuff, I'm like, okay, I see where they're getting it from. Again, that's not me believing, right, that John Cena is actually invisible or that the Undertaker is actually undead, but kayfabe. I can suspend my disbelief and I can enjoy it like I enjoyed the Silmarillion. And then I could enjoy the UFO stuff and say, oh, they're using the Law of One. How amusing, right? Do I buy it?
So more like entertainment is what you're saying.
I treat it
more
like entertainment. Yeah.
And in Donnie's defense, not even good entertainment. In Donnie's defense, he said it's woo. He said it's really woo. He did say that. He did say that.
I never said one should be maximum woo. I'm just defining what maximum woo is.
I almost expect Ric Flair to come behind him and yell woo right behind him in a minute.
It's all aboard the woo train, baby.
Well, here's my question then. Okay. I can see that. I can see what you're talking about now that you explain to me how you view it and how you go at it. Because I can see if you suspend disbelief or suspend your disbelief and everything and look at it verbatim, I can see where others have kind of based their theories and their research in what has started there. I can actually see that on a lot of UFO research especially. But heck, that's no different than NASA or scientists of the day today using the stuff that Gene Roddenberry came up with Star Trek in the 60s. The same words, same everything. So what they did was influence a certain part of our culture is what they did. And it's just kind of stuck. Whereas same with the Star Trek side.
I'm just having a really hard time with it because they were already talking about fictitious characters in their movie, back in the 60s, right? And so they already had this alien gig thing happening, right? So I think that they just made up more stories and it just unfolded like it did.
Okay, so wait a minute, back up. The movie was made before they all hooked up?
Before. It was about like 15 years before,
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying now, Tex? I mean,
it
was made before.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, And that's why I think they were just in it for trying to make a name for themselves, trying to make money, you know, trying to, like, again, become a cult because they had all the answers.
Well,
You know,
you
they
have to
had
think
all
about it
the
like
answers.
this. Okay, remember, this is the UFO paranormal world before all of YouTube. This was 60s,
Oh, yeah.
70s, 80s. This is the prototype of what we're doing now, right? Imagine us doing this, but no YouTube, right? So these people are essentially in their own bubbles, right? They have a small group of people that they meet in person and they do like meditations. They're not talking to other experts, other
No.
people in the field, other authors or other researchers. They're in a world of their own because there is
Yeah.
no one else around them. This is the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
That's what I'm saying. What research were they doing? What research were they doing?
They didn't know, honestly. Quite
I
frankly,
mean, the
they
only
really
research
didn't.
that I could think of is
No.
her laying there, them asking questions, and she just answers whatever. I mean, that's the only research that I'm seeing. I don't see anything else that could provide proof or like hard
Well,
fact, you know, information. There's nothing there.
yeah,
And
but
for them to
you
use
know,
the name Ra is pretty peculiar.
yeah, because it was already well
Pretty-
established by that time that he
Yeah.
was the
Pretty
Mhm.
unimaginative, to be honest with
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
you. Phone that in.
I understand where Brandy's coming from with it, and as far as the proof side of it too. But I also understand where you're talking about because, like you said, in the '80s, early '80s, especially like that, it was just those three. They were documenting whatever they were doing right then. That's all they were doing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily trying to prove one thing or another. I think she was playing him a little bit more, and he's letting it happen more than he should have. He should have done more to verify, as any scientific method would dictate. You don't just take the first thing. You need to sit there and you need to experiment with others and see if somebody else can replicate that same situation. But they're already saturated at that point because those three would need to be out of the picture and somebody else would have to do it. You know what I mean? Because they already know the words. They already know what's happened.
Right.
I think
They're
it's
just going to repeat it.
okay. I think it's very telling that oh, only the three of us can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we already
Well,
know
no,
that go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, well, you're right. You're right, Tex, when it comes to that, only because of the fact is there's other people who channel out there. They didn't bother bringing anyone else in
yeah.
to, you know, to even prove this theory or disprove
Right.
it. They brought in nothing.
I mean, you can't tell me they weren't aware of Ed and Lorraine Warren
Right.
in those circles. You can't tell. You're not going to convince me of that.
But she
Right.
wasn't in that circle really with them, though. She was more on that spiritual side. They're talking
get
straight out something else.
Yeah.
Spirit, okay, but you hit the nail on the head right there, Randy. Spiritual side of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's what this is.
but
okay.
they're not saying that. They're saying that these are interdimensional beings doing this, not spirits.
Remember, they started off as UFO researchers. That's what Don
Yeah.
Elkins, like, he had already published several UFO books, like books on like Roswell and stuff before getting into all this.
And I don't think Ed and Lorraine Warren would have even gone into the same room with them alone.
I don't
never heard-
either. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that
I agree. I agree with you. Yes, I see what you're saying. There are others that could have done what she purported to have done.
Right.
Why didn't they try? But I think
'Cause
that's
they were,
once
the
again.
Warrens were definitely in their prime
Yeah.
during this time. So yeah,
Mhm.
So
they were
and you,
contemporaries.
like you'd said, Don Elkins was literally, he was fixated on what I would say he probably had Asperger's. Probably he was fixated on one thing, and that was
Right.
his most important thing.
Right.
There was no, hey, let's try and, you know, quantify it, you know, or qualify it, you know, with some backup. No, oh, look what I got. Boom, I've got it.
This
Period.
guy thought he had like this key to the universe, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, they didn't even achieve what they wanted to achieve because the way they wrote the book sounded like this should be in everybody's home everywhere, all over the world. That
Yeah.
this is the tell-all book and everybody should know these things.
There
I
are a
didn't
number
even
of
know
people.
about this book until you told me about it. Randy hadn't heard of it. Tex hadn't heard of it. There's a lot of people in chat that probably hadn't heard of it. So, I mean, they never did achieve, that status. Like, it
Sparky,
sounds
you're
like they were
right.
wanting to.
You're right. And we've been, you're right. Sparky's right. He says, I got to give props to Donny for doing all the research and explaining everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's still interesting
Absolutely.
to even talk about, I mean, because it's one of those things like, yeah, go ahead.
This is not the first time we've talked to Donny about this particular subject.
No.
Nope.
It's not even the only one. There's this. Seth Speaks. This is another channeling.
Yeah. Yep.
And they actually reference each other. This being mentions Ra, and Ra mentions Seth. So this is
so when was that book? When was that book written versus the other book?
This one was. Let me find out.
Because it'd be interesting to find out if
around the same time. Oh no. This one's 10 years older. This one's 1970.
Okay.
So
okay.
So because during the Ra sessions, the Law of One, they actually asked Ra, hey, because they knew about this already. So they're like, what are your thoughts about Seth? And then Ra talks about Seth. Seth is different though, because Ra was a 6th density being. Seth was a former human who just did not incarnate.
So she read a book. Is what happened.
She could have.
She could have read the book and have already had that previous knowledge because it was out 10 years. And if you think about it, so they did it from 81 to 84. 10 years prior to that was the early 70s.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Mm-hmm.
Right in their movie era there, right along in those lines, right in those few years there somewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? You see how it's all connecting? It's kind of like they took an idea and then they just started snowballing and running with it and running with it and running with it. And it would be interesting to know if, what's the woman's name?
Carla Reichert.
Yeah.
Carla and the hippie.
Jim McCarthy.
Jim. Yeah.
Okay, so it would be interesting to know how far Carla and Jim went back.
Yeah.
As in knowing each other.
Jim definitely came in last out of the group. Carla and Don knew each other. Yep.
According to them.
Yeah.
But we don't know the real date. You know what I mean?
Right.
This could have been somebody from before that Carla knew from her channeling or movie or whatever and brought him in. And it all could have been a con.
Could be.
Who knows? Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt it was a con.
Yeah. I think so too. I think they were trying to make a buck. And as researchers, we know that we have to exhaust every possibility to accept it as proof.
Okay.
Just remember, go ahead, Randy.
No, you just say here because there's one more question I'm gonna throw up there for you from Rory from earlier. So go ahead.
Just remember that moving forward, when you talk to people who talk about like the UFO extraterrestrial topic, anytime you hear the mention of the word like wanderer, whenever they use the word density instead of dimension or frequency, they say density specifically.
Yes.
Anytime they talk about the Galactic Federation or they specifically reference Orion, it's the Law of One.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes from.
Well, it's going to be one of my first questions from now on. Do you follow the teachings
of the Law of One?
Of the Law of One.
Are you a children of the Law of One?
Yeah.
How woo are you?
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Rock and Roy were asking this one earlier. So I don't know. I figured maybe one of you might know.
Oh, people do it all the time, man. There's what's that guy? That Bashar guy? That guy's
I don't
doing
know
the
who,
same
who
thing.
Marianne Williamson is, though.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Yeah.
that's my whole point. There are other people that were doing this,
Yeah, there are plenty of
and
people
they
who are
did
still
not
channeling.
think to bring anyone else in.
mhm.
Well, there's
Anyone.
plenty of people that are doing it now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't think then to bring anybody else in, and they did it just between the three of them. It doesn't sound like they had anyone else coming in.
hey, Tina.
They're like filming or taking notes or asking questions, or they had nobody, just the three of them. So between the three of them, this is their truth.
Right.
And when I say their truth, that's what I mean.
That's the only ones that can do it because nobody
So-
else really
Yeah.
buying it.
So
Yeah, 'cause
whenever
half that stuff is not my truth.
whenever I'm in a conversation with people and they ask like, "Hey, where do you think Bigfoot comes from?" I always say, "Oh, I hear they were former inhabitants of Maldeck." Sometimes you'll see me in the chat rooms
Yeah.
cracking the joke where I'm like, "Oh, I think Bigfoot's a homeless alien," because according to the
Never.
law of one, basically that's me referencing that, right?
I've never
Because
seen you do that in
At
chat
the end of the
at
day,
all.
we don't really have an answer for who or what Bigfoot actually is. Law of
Mm-mm.
one, I'm not saying it has the answer for what Bigfoot is, but it is an answer.
It's as
Well,
plausible as anything else.
It's an
Oh,
answer. Yeah.
you're right, Donnie. You're absolutely right. Because who's to say that aliens have to be gray or green?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who's to say
Okay.
Bigfoot isn't a homeless alien?
Roswell, New Mexico. There is the International UFO Museum and Symposium.
hmm
And they have a poster that lists the different species of aliens.
Okay.
Bigfoot's right there.
Yeah, it's a homeless alien.
It must be right. It's in print, Tex. It must be absolutely 100% correct. It has to be. Just like if we say it here on YouTube, it's 100%
true.
correct.
If it's out on the internet, it is 100% true. Period. Everybody knows that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a PSA, everybody. No, it's not. No, it is not. Just
She
saying.
is not the one
With the
you listen
red
to.
circle.
It's a red circle.
She is
That's-
not the one you listen to.
That is the law of one. It's my red circle. It is definitely my red circle because I'm not seeing it. I am definitely not seeing it. I don't know about
Well-
anybody else in chat or anybody else out there listening, but I can't. I don't know. I mean, maybe when we pass and we get all this infinite knowledge that we've been searching for, or this lifetime, maybe it's true. Maybe we'll get it. But
Well,
as a human, I can only go by what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we
I-
all, I mean, it's up to all of us individually to decide.
Find
what
your
we
own
choose to
truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to find your own
And-
truth,
and
whatever
if
that
this
may
is-
be.
And if this whole raw business is your truth, hey, more power to you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I ain't buying it.
I have a question for
Sure.
you, Donnie, on this one.
All right.
Now, we were talking about it earlier on when you were first going through it, and I heard you say something about tarot.
Mm-hmm.
This affects tarot, or tarot was derived from it some way, shape, or form.
Tarot's
No.
not derived from it, but it does talk about. Let's actually, you know what? Let's find out. Oh, there's like 23
It's
questions.
their
and answers about
theory.
tarot.
It's their theory. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I did
their
not read the
answer.
whole thing. It's
to tarot.
actually, yeah, it's actually kind of tough to read because of the way Ross speaks. Like,
Well, yeah,
it's-
but
he's not a human consciousness, so his command
Yeah,
of
no.
the English language is a
Cliff
bit-
Notes is fine. Cliff Notes is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, only reason I say that is because, if they're referencing tarot with that, tarot's an ancient tradition. I mean,
Right.
an ancient, divination practice of God, how many different cultures, obviously.
Right.
Then I don't know how they are seeing it, is what I'm saying, is how they're seeing, because I heard you mention the tarot earlier, and I was like, I know a ton of people that do tarot, a ton of them. You know, so what are they saying about tarot is what I mean.
Yeah, that's another time, Randy. I think that's a really deep subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking about
that
a
might have
book.
to be a whole separate episode, actually.
Well, I was just asking what the three people that did this were saying about tarot. That's all I asked.
I
Well,
actually
you'd have
pulled
to read
it
that
up.
whole entire
I actually
section.
pulled up tarot, and dude, there's a lot of text here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's what I meant. There's going to be a ton to that because you're going to have the
I got
people
it.
that are going, you are so full of BS, you know, and then you're going to have the people saying that they believe every bit of it, you know. Like I said, this is one book about three people's. Well, let's hope it's their truth. You know, I don't. It doesn't sound like it to me, but let's hope it's somebody's truth. You know, but it's definitely not mine. You know, I mean,
And Sparky says he knows the knowledge of everything, but his English is not good. Sorry, I had to. Well, okay, so here's the way that I'll actually describe more in detail the way Raw talks. First things first, every time they ask it a question, it always says, I am Raw, period, and then it'll go right into it, okay? The thing is that the reason why it's hard to follow is not so much the grammar. The grammar is fine, right? It's the vocabulary. He uses like, he'll say like, okay, let me just read you an excerpt, right? I'll show you what I mean. Let's do. Let me look up the pyramids, okay? And then at one point they ask it like how the pyramids were made. All right. The question was, you mentioned pyramids were an outgrowth of this. Could you expand a little bit? Were you responsible for the building of the pyramid? What was the purpose of the pyramid? Okay. Answer: I am Ra. The larger pyramids were built by our ability using the forces of one. The stones are alive. It has not been so understood by the mind, body, spirit distortions of your culture. The purposes of the pyramids were two. Firstly, to have properly oriented place of initiation for those who wish to become purified or initiated channels for the law of one. See, it's the way it speaks. It's just very, very wordy, word heavy, and it uses like very awkward verbiage because, again, it's a non-human entity trying to move its mouth in a language that it's not used to. None of it, it's like whenever it says like 65 million, it'll say 6500000. It'll actually say the O's instead of saying million. It's weird like that.
wow. See, that's odd.
It's odd.
I don't know. Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was just a money-making scheme.
Weird.
There was
It's
a
weird.
love triangle. There was all kinds of stuff trying to.
I thought it was interesting personally because I was like when I was reading it, I was like, oh, you know what? If an extraterrestrial being were trying to speak English, this is probably what it would look like.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then again, if it was speaking the English language, why wouldn't it just say million?
The thing is, I spent like 15 years as an ESL teacher. Like I used to teach like Korean people who try to speak English, and like they would have their own little language like patterns like that where they would use awkward verbiage. Not necessarily that it was wrong, but it was because it was through the lens of their own cultures that things like it sounds weird to us, but you could kind of, because I also speak Korean, it makes sense why they would say things that way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we're talking about an advanced life form.
Right.
Channeling, being channeled. You would think that it would come up with something better than
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been 00000 instead of 00000?
Well, it actually explains at one point. It actually says, hey, listen, guys, we beings, we communicate everything all at once through thought. So to actually have to put string words together in this manner, Ra mentioned that this was something that was kind of awkward, I guess.
Nice cover up. Yeah, that's a nice cover up. That's a nice cover up. I love it. I'm sorry. That's just a nice little roll right there. It's like, hey, I'm gonna make some mistakes because I'm this higher being
Yeah,
with
I'm an
all this
alien,
knowledge,
man.
but I can't
We don't
say
speak
million.
your
I gotta say
yeah.
000 or oh. So yeah, sorry. Just, I'm having a hard time with it.
Freaky Geek
Sorry.
says, Brandy, it's oh because somebody fell down some steps.
Oh, Lord, my shoe.
Oh my shoe.
And I'm from the north, so it'd be OPE. OPE. Op.
Is that how y'all say it over there?
Well, I use that a lot growing up. Yeah. OPE. I still use it now. It's like when
Yeah.
somebody says something like snarky, I'm like, oh, say it still.
So yeah, guys, I'm glad
One
I
of
was
us
able
is-
to bring you all one step closer to the truth and to the next level of density.
Well, it is fascinating how they, however you want to look at this book and these people. I mean, because it sounds like they were kind of, all three of them were not quite there. That they were a little off in one way or another. But I mean, I don't know how or what possessed them to write a book and say they have the answers to everything. I don't know how they could have been so bold to do so.
Hey, it's no different than the guy that used to come into our chat and claim he was an expert on everything, but couldn't figure out how to send me an email.
Oh, we don't want to talk about that dude. Don't even bring that. He might
That's
show
just
up.
opening up a can of worms.
I mean, there is that. I'm just sitting here going, how could you be so bold to do that? That's like contradicting the Bible, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to throw that stuff kind of out there and say you have the answers to everything, but the Bible has the answers to nothing. You kind of don't want to do that. And they pretty much got away with it. They did. It was obscure enough where not a lot of people had seen it.
See, my question is, how different would things have been for the three of them had YouTube been around? And they had like
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
They would have been targeting a very small audience. Very small.
No, they'd have been one of the biggest channels around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's the flip side of the coin.
Yeah.
They were either going to be nothing or they were going to be monsters.
They would have been the next cult leaders of, 2025. Who knows?
They would have been going to UFO conventions.
Yeah.
And speaking engagements.
We're already working on that bit though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very strange. I mean, very interesting. Very interesting. It is. I mean, it really is. Because, they make some points, but they don't. It's like it almost, right when they make that point, it's kind of like they overkill it. And then it's all, squashed from there. You know what I mean? It's like they start getting right to a point where I'm almost okay. I can almost understand this. And then they just kill it. So
Hey,
I don't know what to do with it.
I'm with you, Amy. The answer to everything is 42. I don't care what it is.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or 44 works good too. I like 44 myself. Works great.
Why you like 44?
Pure
Huh?
Why 44 on you?
I just like 44.
Oh, okay. I almost forgot.
Been a decent number.
Before we let you go, if you're ever talking to UFO or New Agey people and they mention ascended masters, that's another term that was coined by Ra. Ascended masters.
That was one of the reasons I asked the question and flagged that question about the Wanderers, because I've seen that in multiple places.
Ra is the one that brings that up.
Does that not scream cult, everyone?
Yeah.
Ascended masters.
Mm-hmm. There's my ascended master right there. His name is Toby.
Tex, how many cult leaders can we name off that follow the same type of scenario?
Well, honestly, I was sitting here thinking just a minute ago, man, we should have had this conversation over on Infamous Minds. because I don't think they're any different than all these con people and cult leaders that we've talked about. I really, really.
I don't think so either. And I've been saying it the whole show.
Right.
I believe there was a love triangle and it had to do financially. There was financial and there's financial stability that was given
Absolutely.
and they wanted more.
Well,
I think they sought him out. I really do think she did. She sought him out because he did have a really good job. He did make really good money. And like I said earlier, it's the sugar daddy without the sugar. You don't have to give the sugar.
Yeah. Well, I just to play devil's advocate for what Donnie was saying, though, I can understand where people would come from with it too, and say the way it's been adapted into so many of these others. Yeah, they may be a cult, but no other cult gets their stuff adapted into
Other
quote
cults.
unquote
mainstream,
research type thing, unless drink the Kool-Aid is its own thing. Obviously, that just became its own thing. But you don't see cult stuff being pulled into other, actual research areas. You know what I mean? Like the UFO stuff that quote some of this crap. And I'm like, this is why I have a problem with a lot of the UFO research out there. A lot of it at best made up.
They didn't do research.
Yeah.
They didn't do research. They did not do scientific research. They sat around and talked to one another is what happened.
Yeah, which makes me see that some of these UFO research groups that use some of this stuff are using them as a fallback so they don't have to do their own research either.
Right. And they should, because I wouldn't necessarily use the law of one for any type of scientific research because there is nothing scientific behind it.
But like I say, I can see where like Donnie was saying earlier, I wouldn't necessarily think of them as a cult right off the bat because of the fact that some of their stuff was used by other spots. And we're talking about third person looking in, that doesn't normally happen.
I think they tried to be a cult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they are and they are on a smaller scale.
Okay. A very small scale. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, they came out with a book, the law of one.
Yeah. Obviously, they've had all these UFO groups that are using the same verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What does that say? I mean, is this actually where it came from, or is it not?
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is this is where it comes from.
And if that's the case,
it originated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it originated from the law of one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's the case, all you UFOers out there that's using this as your Bible, you need to rethink stuff. I'm just saying.
Right. Yes.
I could tell you straight up that in 2005, I watched an interview with Carla Reichert herself about, actually 2006, 2005. Yeah. At that time, she said with the book that they had released of the Law of One, they had sold up to like 55,000 copies at that point. I don't know how many.
Okay, so it's minimal. Yeah, it's minimal.
It's minimal, but it's not nothing either. It's
no.
Yeah.
And they probably did it on the old style Amazon, when it was still half price books or whatever it was too, or half.com, type thing.
Yeah, I don't.
But the research,
I don't know. Maybe it gained more notoriety after she had passed. I don't know, but I don't know.
It's got its niche, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. It does.
So, is this horse dead enough yet?
No.
Yes.
Wait, just pull up. Here we go. Ready? I got another hour in me. Watch this.
Randy's going to fall out of his seat. Don't anyone listen to him. He's going to fall right out of his seat. So we're done with the law of one. We are not divided on this panel. I think we're all at the general same consensus that we believe that this is
BS.
Okay, there you go.
Kayfabe, Tex. Kayfabe.
Yeah,
Wrestling is not fake. It's
it's
real to me, damn it. It's real
Just
to
remember-
me.
it's for
real to
entertainment purposes only is what this
Kayfabe.
book is for.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
it. There's no scientific proof behind it. So
I think
gets a
Jason
thumbs
Fitch says
down.
it best when he says, I have to go and take a poop now.
right.
Well said, Mr. Finch.
Yes.
Yeah, the book gets a thumbs down. It's great for entertainment, but if you're reading it for anything
I didn't think it's good entertainment. but
scientific,
okay.
just no. Pass.
We're
It's a
going to
hard
get the
pass.
book. We're going to get the book, and we're going to do chapter by chapter reading by Tex and record it
Mm.
and put it out on
Mhm.
podcast.
Text
No.
narrates.
Tex narrates the law.
Right. Right.
I'm the wrong gender.
All
Oh, no,
right,
no, no.
everybody. So well,
Randy's
let's get off
thinking
of
to do it.
here and call this
real
a good
quick
night.
before we give it a
Oh
an end,
gosh, Donnie, you
just
do
a
this
quick
to me
reminder.
every time.
Lawofone.info. If you want to read it for yourselves, it's all right there.
There you go. All right.
Please don't.
He does it to me every time I start saying goodbye. He's going, wait, and then I'll say it again. Wait.
Are you going to say it again?
Nope, he ain't gonna say it.
Well, I'm waiting because when you start saying it, I'm going to do it.
And next week, y'all, I feel sorry for everybody watching, everybody in chat.
Mhm.
I will be out of pocket. I will be working out of town, so I will not be on next Wednesday's show. So I leave it to all of you out there to keep these boys in check. Don't let them get crazy.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're even talking about. So
We need to get old Brian Alvarez do a paranormal wrestling video again.
that's
fun.
not that's no. Anyway.
Hey, that was a good show.
It was a good show. She just didn't like it.
There was no paranormal talk at all, though.
Hell no.
No.
Yeah, there was no.
Zero
Let's keep
paranormal
it to
talk,
the paranormal,
Yeah.
supernatural, cryptid, whatever you want to call it. Let's try to keep it
Okay.
to that at least a little.
All right.
All right. So everybody, I just want to tell you goodbye, and I'll see you 2 weeks from now. So push the button.
Bye, guys.